This is a genius move by Lumix, and honestly, Lumix is making it so much easier for you and others to get into the creative space and to creative work with photo and video and start making some money. What I'm about to tell you will not only make for a better production workflow, it will cost you nothing if you already have the S5 II or the S5 IIX. And yes, I am talking about the new firmware that is available for the Lumix S5 II and the S5 IIX for free. By the way, Lumix in the past has been notorious for paid firmware, especially a big firmware update like this. I'm just thinking back to the Vlog L that you had to pay for the key for the GH4 and the GH5, and that drove so many of us crazy. I'll get into why it's genius here in a bit, but first let's just take a quick look at this new firmware update from Lumix and what it is and how you install it. All right, here's some of the new features with this firmware update that is totally free. I know I keep saying that, but it's incredible that it's totally free. And one of the biggest things is the native camera to cloud integration with Frame.io. So you're gonna be able to take images and videos and automatically upload, back them up, share the files, work jointly via the cloud. And this is all straight from your S5 IIX. So what it's gonna allow you to do is have a very collaborative workflow when it comes to production. More on this in a bit. Another great feature with this update is the proxy video recording, which you can simultaneously record to maybe like a SD card that proxy file. If you've been in production and you work with proxies, you know that this really speeds up the editing and post-production process, and it's going to allow for a little bit faster of a delivery, not as hard on your computer, and proxy files are just great to work with. A couple other things with this new firmware update is just the improved autofocus. You now have animal, eye, car, and motorcycle recognition with the autofocus, and it's also supposed to improve lock on a single person. If you're in like a group of people, it should lock on better one single person. Another feature is the enhanced electronic image stabilization performance when you are walking, running with the camera, any type of movement. It's supposed to really support that image stabilization electronically. It will punch in a little bit with a crop, but that is basically a gimbal killer right there. One of the issues in the past with shooting with the S5 II and S5 IIX with a wide lens is just some of the warping on the edges. This firmware update is also supposed to fix some of that warping using wide angle lenses. Then one of the updates for our photography friends out there is some of the pre-burst shooting that you're gonna get. If the shutter's halfway down, you're gonna get some of those files before you actually push the shutter button all the way down. Just one of those retroactive features that is going to allow you to not miss any shot. Here's how you install the update. Go to the Panasonic website, where the link is in the description. Find the update, the firmware update for the S5 IIX. Click download, toss that bin file onto an SD card, put it in your S5 IIX or S5 II, then scroll through the menu down to the wrench and go down all the way until you find firmware version. Hit the update button there, and then it'll start processing. Here is why this new firmware update is so genius from Lumix, and it really all comes down to the workflow, especially for solo video business owners. Recently, I've started making videos about being a solo video business owner with Lumix cameras. And what this firmware is gonna allow you to do is just increase the speed at which you can output some of your production. And the reason it's so genius is just that Frame.io integration and that proxy workflow. So let's say you're on set, maybe shooting some interviews, being able to upload camera to cloud to Frame.io, all the files to a remote editor is going to save you so much time, and almost in reality, on some scenarios, it might almost be real-time editing. So a lot of times as solo business owners, we run into some bottlenecks. Mine personally, and I made a video about this, mine personally is editing. And so having a remote editor somewhere that you can drop these files while you're on set to your editor, that is going to make that workflow so much faster. And another reason this is so genius is the fact that you have this capability on a camera that is under $2,500. The fact that this is on a hybrid cinema camera like the S5 IIX is incredible when it comes to the actual price point of these cameras. So everything from the shoot settings that you have on the S5 IIX all the way to now camera to cloud integration. I just feel like so much of what Lumix is doing is trying to lower the barrier to entry for you and others to get into creative work. And in a lot of cases, it's making it very difficult to come up with excuses to not do it. So absolutely, this is a genius move by Lumix by integrating, partnering with Frame.io for this camera to cloud workflow. I think it's not only gonna help solo video business owners, it's gonna help bigger production companies, but it's also gonna help content creators that wanna pump out content faster and on a regular basis, where they might have a remote editor and they don't need to focus on that editing piece. So on a personal level, I'm pumped about this new firmware update, and I think that it is gonna be beneficial, immensely beneficial for you and for me and for other Lumix users. And I think this integration, this camera to cloud integration, is probably gonna bring some new people to the Lumix workflow as well. So definitely go and download this new firmware, update your S5 II or S5 IIX, and see how it improves your workflow. And let me know in the comments, is this something that you're excited about? We can get a conversation started down there. Now, if you're shooting on the Lumix S5 II or the S5 IIX, check out this video that's popping up right here. I go through all my settings, all my video settings that you can just copy, toss on your camera, and then you'll be good to go to start shooting video. I'll see you over in that video.